The car shuddered as another gust of icy wind slammed into its dented sides. Frost clung to the windows, turning the outside world into a blur of white and gray. Inside, the air was just as cold. She pulled her thin coat tighter around her shoulders, even though it barely helped. Her fingers were numb, stiff from the cold, and she rubbed them together, breathing into her hands to create a little warmth. In the back seat, her son slept curled into a tight ball, his small chest rising and falling in short, shallow breaths. She leaned back to touch his forehead, her heart squeezing with fear. It was cold, too cold. She whispered his name softly, just to make sure he was still warm enough, still safe. "I'm here, baby," she murmured, though her voice trembled. "Mommy's here." The heater hadn't worked in months. Gas was a luxury she couldn't afford anymore. The car was the last thing she had left, and even that felt like it might give up on her any moment. She had parked behind a closed grocery store, hoping the tall building would block some of the wind. Snow crunched under passing cars on the main road nearby, but none slowed down. No one ever did. She stared through the frosted windshield, her breath forming small clouds in the air. Just weeks ago, she'd had a small apartment, a job, a routine. Then the layoffs came. One missed paycheck turned into two, then an eviction notice she couldn't fight. Friends stopped answering calls, shelters were full, and suddenly, this car, old, cramped, and freezing, became home. Her stomach growled softly, and she pressed a hand against it, embarrassed even though no one could hear. She hadn't eaten since the morning before. Whatever food she'd managed to get had gone to her son. Always him first, always. She reached into the glove compartment and pulled out a crumpled receipt, staring at it blankly. Her thoughts drifted dangerously close to panic. What if the temperature dropped more? What if her son got sick? What if this night broke her in a way she couldn't recover from? Tears burned her eyes, but she blinked them back. Crying wouldn't help. She had learned that the hard way. She shifted in the driver's seat, rubbing her arms harder now, teeth chattering despite her effort to stay quiet. She didn't want to wake him. Sleep was the only warmth he had. Just get through the night, she whispered to herself. Just one more night. A distant siren wailed, fading into the cold darkness. The parking lot lights buzzed overhead, flickering weakly. She glanced around, fear pricking at her skin. Being homeless wasn't just cold, it was terrifying. Every sound felt like a threat. Every shadow made her heart race. She locked the doors again, even though she knew it was pointless. If someone wanted in, the locks wouldn't stop them. Still, it made her feel a little safer. Her phone buzzed softly. She grabbed it, hope flaring for half a second, only to fade when she saw the battery warning, 5%. No messages, no missed calls. She turned the screen off quickly to save what little power remained. Another wave of cold swept through the car, and she wrapped her arms around herself, rocking slightly. Her mind drifted back to better days, warm kitchens, bedtime stories, laughter. She clung to those memories like lifelines, afraid that if she let them go, she'd forget what hope felt like. Then, out of the corner of her eye, she noticed movement. Headlights swept across the parking lot, slow and deliberate. A black SUV rolled in and parked a few spaces away. Her chest tightened instantly. She straightened, every nerve on high alert. Was it security? Police? Someone dangerous? The engine turned off. She held her breath. A door opened. Footsteps crunched on the frozen ground, steady and unhurried. She glanced back at her son, instinctively shielding him with her body. Her heart pounded so loudly she was sure it could be heard outside the car. The footsteps stopped beside her window. A shadow fell across the frost-covered glass. Then, tap, tap, a gentle knock. She froze, fear and exhaustion colliding in her chest. Slowly, she turned her head toward the window, her breath catching in her throat. A man stood there, tall, well-dressed, his coat expensive, his expression unreadable through the fogged glass. He looked nothing like the world she was used to now. He looked important. She stared at him, confused and terrified. And as he leaned closer to the window, trying to see inside, she realized something that made her heart race even faster. This was no ordinary stranger. Her heart hammered as the man stood outside her car, his breath faintly fogging the glass. For a long moment, neither of them moved. The cold seemed to press in harder, as if the night itself was holding its breath. She tightened her grip on the steering wheel, every instinct screaming at her to protect her child. Slowly, cautiously, she cracked the window just an inch. Cold air rushed in immediately, biting her cheeks. "Yes?" she asked, her voice hoarse, barely louder than the wind. The man took a small step back, raising his hands slightly, not in surrender, but in reassurance. Up close, she could see he wasn't young. His face carried lines of experience, his eyes calm, steady, and unmistakably kind. "I'm sorry to bother you," he said gently. "I didn't mean to scare you." She nodded stiffly, eyes flicking between him and the back seat. It's late," she said, a quiet warning. "I know," he replied. "I was driving past and saw frost on your windows. I just wanted to make sure you're okay." "Okay." The word felt foreign, almost laughable. "I'm fine," she said automatically, the lie slipping out as easily as breathing. "We're just resting." He didn't argue. He didn't push. He simply leaned slightly to the side, enough to catch a glimpse of the small shape in the back seat, wrapped in two thin blankets. His expression changed. Not dramatically, not with shock, but with something deeper. Concern. Recognition. "It's very cold tonight," he said quietly. "Especially for a child." Her throat tightened. "I know." Another silence stretched between them, heavy and awkward. She expected questions, judgment, maybe even a threat to call someone. Instead, he surprised her. "My name is Daniel," he said. "I own the building across the street." She blinked. "The office tower?" He nodded. "Yes, a CEO." The realization hit her slowly, absurdly. This man, clean shoes, tailored coat, confident posture, belonged to a world that had long since closed its doors to her. And yet, here he was, standing beside her frozen car in the middle of the night. "I don't want to intrude," Daniel continued, lowering his voice even more, "but no one should have to sleep like this. Not you, and certainly not your son." Her defenses flared. "We don't need charity," she said quickly, though the words tasted bitter. "We'll manage." Daniel studied her face, not unkindly. "I'm not offering charity," he said. "I'm offering help." She laughed once, short and hollow. "Same thing." He shook his head. "No, charity is impersonal. Help is human." Something in his tone cracked the wall she had built around herself. She looked away, blinking hard as her eyes burned. "I used to tell myself that," he went on softly. "Back when I thought success meant never needing anyone." She glanced back at him, surprised. "My wife passed away years ago," he said. "Cancer. I had money, resources, power, and none of it could keep her warm, or safe, or here." The parking lot lights hummed above them. Snow drifted lightly now, settling on the hood of the car. "I learned something after that," Daniel continued. "We all need someone. Pretending otherwise only makes the cold feel worse." Her hands began to shake. Not just from the temperature now. From exhaustion. From being seen. "I don't know what you expect me to do," she whispered. "Shelters are full. Friends are gone. I've tried everything." Daniel nodded slowly, as if he already knew. "I'm not here to tell you what you should have done," he said. "I'm here to tell you what you don't have to do anymore." She swallowed. "Which is, freeze tonight," he replied simply. He reached into his coat and pulled out a small card, holding it out through the cracked window without forcing it closer. "There's a guest suite in my building. Heated, safe. You can stay there tonight. No paperwork, no questions." Her breath caught. I can't." "You can," he said gently. "And you should." She looked back at her son. He stirred slightly, murmuring in his sleep, his nose red from the cold. The sight broke something inside her. "What if?" Her voice faltered. "What if this is a mistake?" Daniel met her eyes. "Then tomorrow, you leave. No strings. But tonight, let him sleep warm." Tears slipped down her cheeks before she could stop them. She wiped them away angrily, ashamed. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "Don't be," Daniel said. "You've been strong long enough." She stared at the card in her hand, then at the man waiting patiently outside her window. For the first time in weeks, the night didn't feel endless. Slowly, with a trembling breath, she nodded. "Okay," she said, "just for tonight." Daniel smiled. Not wide, not triumphant, just relieved. That's all anyone needs, he replied. Just one warm night. The building lobby glowed like a sanctuary when they stepped inside. Soft lights reflected off polished floors, and warm air wrapped around her like a blanket the moment the doors slid shut behind them. She paused just inside the entrance, her body reacting before her mind could catch up. Warmth. Real warmth. Her knees almost gave out. Her son stirred in her arms, confused by the sudden change. "Mom," he murmured, eyes fluttering open. "It's okay, sweetheart," she whispered, brushing his hair back. "We're somewhere safe." Daniel walked a few steps ahead, speaking quietly to the night receptionist, who nodded without a single question. No forms, no suspicious looks, just acceptance. The elevator ride was silent except for the soft hum of the cables and her son's sleepy breathing. When the doors opened, Daniel led them down a quiet hallway and stopped at a door near the end. He unlocked it and stepped aside. "Please," he said gently. The room was small but perfect. Clean white sheets, a sofa, a kitchenette, and most importantly, a heater humming steadily in the corner. The sound alone nearly made her cry. She laid her son on the bed, helping him out of his stiff coat. His fingers slowly relaxed as warmth seeped back into his skin. Within minutes, he was asleep again, this time deeply, peacefully. She stood there watching him, chairs sliding freely now. Not from fear, from relief. Daniel hovered near the doorway, giving her space. "There's food in the fridge," he said softly. "Nothing fancy. Soup, bread, milk, and fresh clothes in the dresser. They might not fit perfectly, but they're clean." She turned to him, her voice trembling. "Why are you doing all this?" He hesitated, then answered honestly. "Because someone once opened a door for me when I didn't think I deserved it. And it saved me." She nodded slowly, accepting that explanation more than any grand speech. After he left, promising to check in the morning, she locked the door and leaned against it, sliding down until she was sitting on the floor. The heater's warmth seeped into her bones, and for the first time in weeks, she allowed herself to sob. Quiet, shaking sobs of exhaustion, gratitude, and disbelief. She ate a few spoonfuls of soup, careful not to wake her son, then curled up on the bed beside him. Sleep came fast and deep. Morning sunlight streamed through the curtains, golden and gentle. She woke slowly, disoriented at first, then remembered. Warm bed, quiet room, no frost, no fear. Her son sat up, eyes wide. "Mom, where are we?" She smiled, a real smile this time. "Somewhere kind." A knock came at the door later that morning. Daniel stood outside with 2 coffees and a paper bag of pastries. "Good morning," he said. "I hope you slept." "We did," she replied. "Thank you." They sat at the small table while her son happily devoured a pastry. Daniel spoke carefully, respectfully. "I can't fix everything," he said. "But I can help you get back on your feet. A short-term apartment, childcare assistance, and a job interview, if you want one. No pressure." Her hands shook as she wrapped them around the warm cup. For so long, survival had been her only goal. Now, someone was offering a future. "I want to try," she said quietly. "For him." Daniel nodded. "That's all anyone can ask." Weeks later, she stood in a small but clean apartment, sunlight pouring through the windows. Her son laughed in the next room, playing with toys donated by people she would never meet. She had a job, stability, heat, and sometimes, when the night was quiet and the memories crept back, she thought of that freezing parking lot and a knock on the window. One moment, one choice, everything changed.